Broke up with my boyfriend due to family issues, but we remain platonic best friends, defying social expectations and maintaining our support system. I'm a 28F who was in a relationship from 2021 to 2023. We broke up in December last year due to family issues. I've shared about this before, so you might get familiar with the situation. After the breakup, neither of us considered getting back together. Despite the breakup, I supported his family through some tough times. His mother experienced a severe medical condition that required amputation, and I was there for them throughout. Shortly after his mother was discharged, my ex broke his leg, and I continued to offer support. As things began to stabilize for his family, they approached me with the idea of reconciling. I politely declined because I knew I wasn't in a mental space to try again. I also realized that joining a family that had previously treated me poorly might not be healthy for me. Even though we ended our romantic relationship, my ex and I have remained close friends. We don't go on dates or engage in any form of physical intimacy, but we do spend a lot of time together. I continue to visit his house regularly, where I have card game nights with his family, and we often go out to dinner together. My ex stays over at my place sometimes, but since I live alone in a big house, he stays in a separate room. He also has a healthy relationship with my parents and best friend. We support each other, and I'm happy to return the favor. Our social and professional circles overlap significantly, so we've naturally remained connected. We work at the same company, and he occasionally gives me a ride to or from the office. He's also a regular at my game nights, and many of his friends are my friends as well. We've been civil about the breakup because it was a mutual decision driven by family circumstances, and there was no betrayal involved. Recently, I was on a long drive with someone I had an on and off relationship with in the past. During our conversation, he was surprised to learn that the person I've been spending time with is my ex. He mentioned that it felt normal to him, but it also made me reflect on how others perceive this situation. Interestingly, many of my friends who meet us together say that I've done a very mature job in preserving something important. They've shared how they lost their best friend when their relationship ended, and they wish they could have found a way to do the same. Neither my ex nor I have any romantic feelings for each other, and we've both been through a lot of trauma with our families. We decided to preserve the friendship because we don't have many close connections outside of our shared circles. There's no flirting or anything of that sort between us. Our friendship has been purely platonic for the last 6 to 7 months. Most importantly, both of us are on dating apps and trying to meet other people. Both of us are serial people pleasers and don't like hurting others, so I understand where this dynamic comes from. However, it felt really weird when someone told me that this situation is abnormal. I'm curious, are there others out there who maintain friendships with their exes because they don't want to ruin what they've already built? My ex and I are a great support system for each other, and we've often talked about how, even if things fall apart, we will always choose to remain friends because it takes a lot to share your life with someone all over again. Edit 1. Thank you, everyone, for your lovely suggestions, criticism, and more. All I wanted to know was whether what I'm doing is normal or not. However, the feedback I received wasn't exactly what I was looking for. I anxiously scrolled through Reddit all day, hoping to find some positive comments, and there were some. But most of you are telling me how I am wrong. I don't owe anyone an explanation, but I haven't had enough relationships to know what's right and what's wrong. In my FR&N circles, there are 2 couples who broke up and are now with new partners, and all of us collectively get along very well. Surprisingly, no one ever brings up the past. Maybe that's why they're so welcoming and not overthinking things. That being said, I'm on all the dating apps, and my ex is also trying to move on. The reason we remain friends is that we work in the same department, hang out in the same circle, and neither of us wanted to divide it. We didn't break up because one of us did something wrong, we broke up because our parents simply couldn't accept us being together anymore. This has left a deep wound in both of our minds. We've been abused by our families, asked to leave everything behind, and I don't even want to go into details about how insulting and demeaning both sides of our families have been toward each other. We could have cut all ties, gotten new jobs, moved cities, and tried to move on. But instead, we sat down one day, maturely asked each other if this relationship was worth sacrificing our parents for, and both of our answers were no. So, we decided never to bring it up again. I don't have any feelings for him anymore, and he clearly doesn't either. Both of us are on dating apps, trying to meet new people. From what I've read in the comments, I believe that with time, everything will naturally dissolve. Currently, both of us are lonely, overworked, and trying to fix our lives, so we're okay with the situation as it is. As we move on in life, our communication will likely become less frequent. When his mom was in the ICU, I was there. When my pet was in the ICU, he was there. When he broke his leg, I helped him. When I got dengue, he helped me. We are nice people. It's easy to tell someone to go to hell and move on, but we were raised to look out for the people we care about. Thanks to everyone for your advice. I will maintain my distance, but cutting him off completely is something I won't do. Update 1. Let's call my best friend K, 33 male, and I have been super close since 2017. From the start, it was clear that we weren't interested in each other romantically. A big part of that was due to caste differences. He's from a higher caste, and I'm from a lower one. He always made it clear that he wanted to marry someone from his caste, and I respected that. We had so much in common, and over the years, we built a really strong friendship. By 2020, we even became flatmates, living together in separate rooms, which made our bond even stronger. Towards the end of 2021, I entered into a relationship, but I kept it secret. I was at a peak in my career, and I didn't want any distractions or questions from others while I was trying to focus on my work. Although I hinted to Kay that I was seeing someone, I didn't explicitly tell him until 3 to 4 months into the relationship. My own trauma from past relationships that didn't work out made me hesitant to share until I was 100% sure about it. When I finally told Kay, he was really offended that I hadn't shared sooner. However, despite this rocky start, my ex, Kay, and I ended up becoming an amazing trio. We were inseparable, hanging out together all the time, and we just clicked as a group. But things started to change in 2023 when Kay met a woman on a matrimonial site. Within just 3 meetings, they got engaged. This woman seemed perfect to him. She mirrored all his interests, from cooking to music to TV shows. He was completely smitten. However, he didn't tell me about the engagement until I accidentally found out when I saw an engagement ring at our place. When he finally told me, he said he felt pressured into the engagement, but I didn't push him on it, I just wished him well. After their engagement, I met his fiancée, and at first, we hit it off. But then, things started to go downhill fast. She suddenly became distant and refused to meet with me alone, saying she'd only meet me if Kay was present. I found it odd but didn't make a big deal out of it. A couple of months later, I went through a really tough breakup. I was also dealing with a lot of other things, recovering from surgery, going through extensive therapy, and on a lot of medication. My engagement had just broken off, and I was living alone in my house. With so much going on, I wasn't in any shape to be social, and as a people pleaser, I felt responsible for only interacting with people when I was in a good mood, not when I was at my worst. So, I started distancing myself from her, thinking I'd reach out when I felt better. At the same time, I realized that Kay had a new person in his life, and based on everything I've read online, posts, reels, and articles, I knew it was important to give him space. I stopped hanging out with him as much, avoided overnight stays, and didn't plan any trips with him because I didn't want to be a hurdle in their relationship. I did my best to step back and let them build their life together. Honestly, Kay's wife has nothing to be worried about. She's smarter, more beautiful, wealthier, and far more educated than me. She's perfect in every way, and I have nothing on me that would make her insecure. However, despite my best efforts, things continued to deteriorate. Kay's wife started asking me to come over and chat when I dropped my pet off at their place. I had to leave my pet there when going to therapy or visiting my ex's mom in the hospital, but I was often in such a rush that I couldn't stay. She took this personally, thinking I was avoiding her on purpose. Things got even more strained when Kay's birthday came around. I reached out to his wife to plan something together, but she completely shut me down, saying she wanted to handle it herself but would invite me later. It was awkward, but I respected her decision. Meanwhile, my ex and I, were still close friends, decided to hang out since we weren't invited to the birthday. When Kay found out we weren't planning anything for him, he was upset. His wife called us, and we had to admit we were just out getting drinks. Sensing the tension, we quickly threw together a surprise party for him, which he loved. But his wife didn't like how much he appreciated our efforts. After that, Kay confided in me that his wife had taken him to a hotel he hated for his birthday and that he wished she had checked with me first. This wasn't the first time something like this happened. Over time, he began to admit that his wife had lied about a lot of things during their courtship. She wasn't into cooking, music, or any of the things she initially claimed to love. He started feeling like he made a mistake by marrying her, and it didn't help that she began trying to control who he spent time with. She even gave him an ultimatum. He wasn't allowed to help me or my ex anymore and could only spend time with her. This situation was further complicated by Kay's own behavior. Whenever his wife was out of town, he'd come over to my place and make comments like, "My wife's out, so now I can finally play." When she'd call to check in, he'd tell her he was hanging out with us, making it seem like we only invited him over when she wasn't around. This only made her more suspicious and negative toward us. She started expecting everything to go her way. She invited us to dinner a few times, but both my ex and I were going through our own issues and politely declined. She took this as a personal offense, never considering that if I wasn't visiting her, I wasn't inviting her over either because I was dealing with my own struggles. It felt like everything was about how she felt, never about what I or my ex were going through. There were so many petty moments, too. For example, one time, I had to leave dinner at their place early because my pet was sick. The next time I invited her over for dinner, she stayed exactly 2 hours and then left, clearly making a point. My female friends even warned me not to mention hanging out with Kay alone because his wife gets visibly uncomfortable and jealous. It's frustrating because I wish I could just tell her that I've had 8 years to try and make a move on her husband, and if I haven't by now, I'm not going to. Despite everything, I've tried to be considerate. When she was sick, I sent her a care basket, and she responded with a backhanded compliment like, "I never knew you guys were so sweet." It felt demeaning because we're the closest friends Kay has, and she's acting like she's surprised we're decent people. Every little thing feels like a power play with her, and it's exhausting. Recently, when I was discussing everything with Kay, he mentioned all the wrong things we've done to his wife, how we've isolated her and made her feel neglected. He also brought up how he's always been kind to my ex, which made me feel bad. I pointed out that my ex also put in a lot of effort to fix things between us. Kay then said, so did my wife, and I tried to explain that it's different when you're living together and seeing each other every day versus when you have to commute, hang out for a few hours, and then go back home. While it wasn't the best justification, I tried to make him understand that when 3 people work in the same company, relationships are just easier to maintain. I also don't know how to explain to her that 7 years of friendship in the same company is a lot. We've traveled to 14 countries together, spent COVID together, and share the same tastes in movies and games. It's absolutely fine, and I've never been a roadblock in Kay finding his own relationship with his wife. I even asked my ex how he was okay with our relationship, and he said that he trusted me. He wasn't insecure because when someone says there's nothing going on, you have to trust them. But he also added that not everyone sees things that way. In hindsight, I can see how this situation might look, but I really don't know what I'm supposed to do here. Did I actually do something wrong? Did I ruin my best friend's marriage? All I wanted was to give them space, be in a good mood when I saw them, and not come off as a crybaby. I was never jealous or insecure about them being married while I wasn't. I just needed time to heal. To add to all this, there are things I haven't even mentioned, like how my parents were begging Kay to take care of me when I wasn't in a good mental place, and he ignored it because his wife asked him to. Meanwhile, my ex, despite his mom being in the ICU and having a broken leg, stepped up to help me through everything. And for anyone wondering why I didn't reach out to other friends, I did, and they helped in their own ways. But my ex, despite everything that had gone down between us, was really worried and disappointed in Kay for not helping me. He even begged Kay to step up because he couldn't due to family dynamics and what his mom was going through. I'm sorry for the long rant, but I'm feeling stuck and helpless. Should I step back and let them figure it out, or did I ruin my best friend's marriage by being too involved? Any advice would be greatly appreciated. Edit 1, for good or for bad, thank you so much for your comments. The first thing I think I should do is cut them off completely from my side while I am at fault. I also think that my best friend threw me under the bus to maintain great relationship with his wife. He conveniently managed to talk shit about his wife to me to keep me on his side and talk shit about me to his wife to keep her on his side. Also, the first thing that I did was to avoid him and somehow it skips people's mind, and surprisingly I realized just now he never did the same and I got in a relationship. He never gave me my space for the first time instead of hating the wife. I'm hating my best friend because he is the reason behind this. Update 1. First, I reached out to Kay's wife and apologized for any hurt I may have caused. I explained the reasons behind my behavior, which she surprisingly wasn't fully aware of. She knew some things were off in my life, but not the extent of it. To my relief, she not only forgave me but also apologized for her hostile behavior, admitting that she felt insecure after my breakup. We both acknowledged that a single female best friend can be intimidating, but I assured her that I have no intention of being a work wife or a pick-me girl. Instead, I expressed my genuine desire to be friends with both of them. I also had a conversation with Kay. I told him that our friendship was starting to feel very one-sided, with him coming around only when it suited him. I made it clear that it's his responsibility to take care of his marriage, especially if his wife feels insecure, and that it's not fair to paint anyone as the villain in this situation. In the end, I bid both of them temporary goodbyes, encouraging them to focus on their marriage. It's a new chapter for them, and they need to work on it together without me in the middle. I also realize that I can't let my past friendships define my entire life. The last 7 to 8 years have been great, but it's time to look forward. I need to consider how a future partner might feel about my relationship with a male best friend. As for my ex, I've asked him to stop looking out for me and let me navigate life on my own, even if it means stumbling a few times. To everyone who left positive comments, thank you. And to those who offered negative feedback, thank you as well. Your perspectives helped me see things from a different angle. A giant bandage has been ripped off. It's like shedding old skin. No friends, no ex, no boyfriend, no drama. I have my whole life ahead of me to fix, and I'm genuinely looking forward to it. Now on to second story. Discovered my wife was hiding her father's past as a child destroyer, and now she demands he be part of our future children's lives. My wife Jessica, 32F, and I, 30 male, have been married for 2 years and are trying for a baby. Jessica has an older sister, Mary, that she isn't close to. She told me that they had a falling out over some family drama and just don't speak anymore. I asked a few times about the entire situation but she would say she doesn't like talking about it and doesn't think it's important. It was Jessica's brother's birthday yesterday and we were all over at his house to celebrate. Mary made an appearance and there was a lot of drama. Long story short, she called Jessica and her brothers out for still associating with their dad when they know that he is a child molester. No one was paying her any mind and I was really confused on what the hell was going on. When Mary left and Jessica and I went home, I asked Jessica what the hell happened. She said that when they were kids, Mary used to claim that their dad used to molest her. I asked if it's true and Jessica was stuttering a lot. She said she knows her dad used to do bad things but that Mary cut them all off when she turned 18 and moved out. I asked if she is admitting that she knows her dad was a child molester and did things to his own daughter. She said he doesn't do it anymore and he was just in a really bad place in his life, and he apologized to Mary, so there's nothing else anyone can do for Mary. I was honestly appalled. I also feel so terrible for Mary. Jessica made it seem like Mary did something wrong and deserved to be basically exiled from the family. I could have never imagined that this is what happened. I asked if she expects me to now be willing to have that man around our future children, and she started shouting at me, saying I'm judging him off something that happened 2 decades ago, and whether I like it or not, he is going to be our child's grandpa and he will be in their lives. I said if she insists on it, I think we need to hold off on having kids and have serious conversations about it. She's extremely angry at me, but I don't know how I could better react, to be honest. This feels like a huge deal that she is minimizing. Ada? Update 1. A few days after my original post, I sat Jessica down and told her how I was feeling. I told her I'm not okay with what she and her family had done to Mary. They knew what their dad had done to her but still chose to take his side and make Mary look crazy. I told her I'm also not okay with brushing her father's crimes under the rug. She was quiet and didn't say anything. She didn't try to defend herself or her family. She was just staring at me in a very chilling way. Almost like she was indifferent to whatever I had to say and just wanted it to be over. I told her I needed time to myself and I would leave and think about what I wanted to do. Suddenly she was paying attention. She seemed shocked and panicked. She started begging me not to leave, saying I'll get over it in a few days when we get back to how we usually are and things settle down. She said all families have skeletons in their closet and that this can't define our marriage. I said no and I left the house for a few days. I ignored all her calls and those of her family. I reached out to Mary on Facebook. I wrote her a lengthy message about how I had no idea all she had been through, and that I'm so sorry for how her family treated her. I told her to reach out to me if she ever needs anything. She got back to me and asked if we can meet for coffee. We met up the day after. At first it was small talk, then she asked if I would be okay if she told me her version of events. I said of course I would, and she spoke to me about it. Everything her dad did and how her family treated her after she told them. I felt physically sick. She even told me stories about how Jessica told her friends that Mary has a mental condition that causes hallucinations, and that just in case Mary starts rumors about their family, that's why. A lot of people still believe Mary has a mental condition because of Jessica. I knew after that talk that I had to end things with Jessica. I went over to our house and told her I want a divorce. I told her I cannot stand the thought of being her husband and a part of their disgusting family. All she did was cry and ask all this for her? I knew then that she hadn't changed. She was still the same person that did all of those things to Mary, and she was still doing them. We're still not officially divorced, but we haven't been together since, and we are going through the process. It's just taking longer than I thought to get it finalized. Mary and I became friends. I invited her to a birthday dinner my family were hosting for me, and she hit it off with my cousin. He's crazy about her, and she seems really happy with him too. He keeps asking me if it would be too early to propose, and I have to tell him to not scare her away, lol. But they have a really wholesome relationship and I'm really happy for them. As for me, I'm just surviving. Divorces are tough, but I know I made the right choice.